I guess if you need to play with your Baby Yoda Lego pieces at 3 o'clock in the morning, you got to have it.
So what do you do in between loads? What do you have any hobbies that keep you busy?
I made a paracord rope the other day.
Made a what?
Uh, a rope, unless there's a good reason, a volcano or a comet or thunder or tornadoes or something. Like all that stuff is understandable, but because Bill decided to sleep in and stop and get a hamburger, that just doesn't cut it. Like you have to be
Right.
professional about it.
So when I came into logistics, that was a big shock, where customer service just doesn't really exist here. Man, that is a glorious beard.
Thank you. I grew it myself.
Yeah, that's amazing. This is all I can do. I don't know if those beard oils or whatever. I don't know if it works or not, but I'm
No,
always envious of people with big ass beards.
it's all genetic. But you know what I always say: every beard's beautiful.
There you go. So thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate you setting it up. We try to do a little stuff like this, to kind of give back to our drivers, give back to the logistics community as a whole. Um, in setting it up, I was going over some numbers, and one thing that stood out, man, that I wanted to mention here is so far this year, it shows in the system that you've had 115 stops, and your on-time performance is 100%. There were four late arrivals, but it was all justified or valid late arrivals, meaning things like you just were not given enough time. There was heavy traffic on the road. There was major delay at pickup or something like that.
Yeah.
But 100% with over a hundred stops is definitely impressive, man. And thank you for that. That's amazing.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Any advice to the rest of the fleet regarding that?
Leave early.
Leave early.
That's. I mean, I plan on being like I pick up as soon as I can, obviously. And if I've got like extra time for anything, I always try to be about an hour early.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work out that way, but like I I've had a lot of employees before, and being on time was really important to me. So, if you showed up for your shift and you weren't at least 5 minutes early, then you're already kind of late in my book. So that
Yeah.
translates over into this.
Yeah, that's that whole if you're not early, you're late thing.
Yeah. Yep.
And,
Exactly.
and I think it just comes down to the personal thing, man. There's some people that take personal pride in that.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, those are the people that do a good job at it. And there's other people that, they personally doesn't bother them if they're late.
Yeah.
So it's really hard then for us, as a company to change that about them.
Yeah. And I understand that'd be really hard to get across people. Like, and I understand too that, especially for this company, your company, like that's part of what you're selling is being on time.
Hmm.
Like you're not selling a vague idea of, well, maybe it'll be here
Hmm.
between 4 and 6. You're not the cable guy. It's you say it's gonna, we'll pick up here and we'll deliver here, and that's your reputation is really important to the company. And if I'm going to work at a place, I want it to be as successful as possible. So that translates over into trying to be on time all the time.
Right. Yeah. Like you said, man, it's well put. At the end of the day, reliability is like 80% of the decision making when a customer is choosing who to give a load to. And
Yeah,
it's based on past performance.
you bet.
The other 20% is that other stuff, communication being big,
Yeah,
convenience.
yeah,
Some of the technology we've built has made it easier for our customers to track our drivers and the shipments. They don't have to chase us down. But at the end of the day, like all of that stuff goes out the window if you're late. And then the other thing is, we're all under the same banner. So
yeah,
you doing a good job, directly helps the other, 100 drivers. And then unfortunately, the same is true for the flip side. Somebody's screwing something up.
yeah,
They don't, the customer's not going to say, well, John screwed up, but Lance is good. No,
right.
they look at BHX, and it's how they view it, and it affects everybody equally. So that's why, I mean, we have a responsibility in management to, do our best to make sure we're only keeping drivers who are, capable of being responsible when it comes to on time, but also when it comes to other things like communication. Just because
Yeah.
it's not fair for you, man. It's not fair for you to get stuck somewhere, 2, 3 days waiting for a load when we could have booked you that first day, but the customer decided not to go with us because of, John or Mike's or Steve's or whoever's performance on a previous load.
Right. Yeah. The customer doesn't see it like you said. It's exactly right. They don't see an individual driver. They see the aggregate of the company. And I've had business experiences where I haven't dealt with people just because of that. Like, I understand both sides of it pretty well. Like, if you're going to rely, you need whatever your spare parts to get from factory A to factory B, and it has got to be there, and you need it to be there exactly when you say. And for whatever reason, it just, unless there's a good reason, a volcano or a comet or thunder or tornadoes or something, like all that stuff is understandable. But because Bill decided to sleep in and stop and get a hamburger, that just doesn't cut it. Like, you have to be
Right.
professional about it.
Yeah, and we try to do as good of a job as we can in that category of on-time performance when it comes to working with drivers. So
Yeah.
we have the valid or justified late arrival, which doesn't count against you. And I
Yeah.
mean, simply put, it's anything that is 100% out of your control, not your fault.
Right.
And then there's the invalid or unjustified late arrivals. And that's things like if you oversleep, if you just didn't leave early enough, if you chose the wrong route. I
Yeah.
mean, simply put, again, anything that can be traced back and said, well, Lance, you could have done this differently. And
Right.
where it gets, kind of gray is when there's both things play a role, right? Like there's a late
Yeah.
arrival where there was some delays at the pickup, but then the guy stopped for 2 hours to eat a hamburger, like you said. Or, like
Right.
a customer gives us a Friday pickup, Monday delivery, and then we call Monday morning and say, well, there's heavy traffic and I'm going to be late because of the traffic. Well, like, no, no,
Yeah.
not really. You're late because you spend the weekend. um, but yeah, it's part of the job, and it's probably one of the more challenging, I mean, parts of the job if you don't naturally have that inclination, I guess, to be early.
Yeah. I could see that. And, I mean, for me personally, it really bothers me. Being on time's always been really important to me. And, I can't let myself do that to other people. I don't, I've known people, I've had a lot of people that have worked for me before that just could not figure that out. You need to be here at
Yeah.
9 o'clock. Oh, be here at 9:30? No, be here at 9 o'clock.
9ish.
9 ish around. And it just doesn't work.
How
If you
long have
speak
you
in
been in
absolutes,
in trucking?
been in trucking, well, a few years now. Uh, I think I've worked for you guys for about a year now.
Yeah.
I had a big truck and a driver, and that just was catastrophic for me. I couldn't make it work. There's still people out there that owe me tons of money, so I just sold that and got into this. And then I had a driver for this van, but he ended up getting sick, had to go back to the West Coast and get surgery. So I just jumped behind it as a last ditch type of deal. So haven't really been driving for that long, but I've been doing it for a while.
Yeah. You look like someone that's had a variety of different jobs and interesting past, and that.
You could say that.
what
Yeah.
what's some of the stuff you've done before trucking?
Well, let me see. I'll start it off weird for you. My first officially paying job when I was 15, I was a clown. Um,
See, I was right.
yeah, I worked at Pizza Hut for kids' night, and then I was younger. I did some basic stuff. I managed a car wash. When I turned
That
21, I got in. Huh?
that's a career you couldn't go back to now with the beard, though. I haven't seen too many bearded clowns.
Actually, I had a beard at the time. My name was Whiskers the Clown.
Oh wow, at
Yeah, it
15.
wasn't nearly
Okay.
this long. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty short, but yeah, I put red makeup on it. That was my name, Whiskers the Clown.
Nice. Okay.
Then I got into the bar and nightclub industry. I did that for most of my entire life. I started out as bar back, and then I managed a bar in the town that I lived in, and then after that, I got into security at the nightclub that was there. I did that for years and years. And then I went to another bar, did started out security there, and then ended up being the general manager for 10 years, something like that.
Okay.
And then after that, I got out of that and I got into the CBD industry in Oregon.
Hmm.
And we did that for a couple years, and it just got weird.
Yeah.
So anyway, we sold everything and moved out east, and then we decided that we were going to do trucking, and now we're here.
What's the goal with the trucking now? I mean, are you looking to expand the fleet? Are you looking to move on to a different line, or what are you looking to do?
I don't really know right now. I'm waiting to see kind of what the rates do. They've been a little bit better lately, which is really,
Yeah.
really good. Uh, it was getting to the point where I was going to pull the plug on it.
Yeah.
60 cents a mile, you're driving for minimum wage after you pay your fuel. This isn't a minimum
Insane,
wage
man.
job. Yeah. So, it was really kind of touch and go there for a minute. I was really thinking hard about it. But, if rates continue to be decent or get better, then, expanding is definitely something that's on the table. Um, it's interesting, having personal perspective, being behind the wheel and actually out here and doing it and
It
seeing what
is.
it's like. And, the rates would have to go up pretty significantly for me to find someone that I think, we could both make money off of it.
Yeah.
Like, that's a pretty tricky deal. Like, you can't send someone out here, at whatever 80 cents a mile, and give them, basically, like I said, minimum wage job. I don't know anyone that would do it for that. And
Right.
then and finding people's rough too. Is the same problem that you have. Like, if I get three more vans and send people out on the road, then I got to know three people that I'm willing to put behind a 80,000 dollar van that
Yeah.
will also, same problem, represent me the way that you want people to represent you. Like, you can't really just put an ad on Craigslist and hope for the best. I did that with the truck basically, and got a terrible driver. And so that's just something that you gotta really know people and have some trust in them. And I just don't really know anyone that'd be interested in doing it. I haven't really looked around, but that would
Yeah.
definitely be a barrier to entry for me.
Yeah. Um, what I'm gonna do is try to get. We have one fleet owner that has, I think, six cargo vans total, and he's had them for a while. The company that he was with shut down about a month ago, so he's brought, I think, three over to us so far, and he's working on onboarding a few more. But
Hmm.
he's probably one of the few people, man, that I have met who's found a way to make it work. So
Mm.
I'm gonna see with him about doing one of these, episodes and share it with the rest of the people. Just kind of giving some advice because more often than not, it doesn't work. Like
Yeah.
you said, I mean, when there's good weeks, then it's okay. Then everyone can make their share and be happy. But in
Yeah.
order for things to consistently be good, you have to find someone that's really able to stay out on the road, that lives at the right place. That's not going to be limited by, I need to go home every 5 days, or, well, I can't do this load, or I can't do that, or I don't want to go here. The
Yeah.
driver almost has to just be like down for whatever and have that freedom to be able to stay out and live in a normal area. I mean, if you hire someone that lives in, Oregon, for example, good luck. I mean, it's just like
Yeah.
getting him back home is a nightmare. Getting him out of there is a nightmare,
Yeah.
all around. But then the other thing with the vans, man, in particular, that I found it difficult because I haven't had a van in a long time. It's been probably about 6, 7 years. But when I
Hmm.
did, and I'd find drivers, is you find somebody, and then if they decide that they do want to stay in this line of work, they can go out and for 10 to 20,000, get a starter van.
Yeah.
Generally, someone that's going to be responsible, and a good driver. Um, Often they go that path. So you also have to find someone that maybe he's done it before and they just don't want the headaches of owning a van and
Right.
repairs and all of that. Yeah, it's possible, but definitely with the pie being smaller, it's harder to split the pie and still have everyone making a decent amount.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so you've been with us for about a year. How
Yeah.
long have you been driving with us?
The whole year.
Oh, okay. So before that is when you had
Yeah.
the
We
driver.
yeah, we bounced around between a couple different companies, and it was just kind of terrible. Like
Yeah.
it just didn't work out very well. Loads were bad. Dispatch was terrible. It was a nightmare for him. So
Yeah.
he actually, my driver, the reason that we got hooked up with you guys is he took the number off of one of the vans that he was sitting next to.
Yeah.
Like that was it, and we started calling, talking back and forth, and I mean, you could just
Did
tell
he
right
speak
away
with
that
our driver, or he just randomly saw the number and?
I think that he did talk to him a little bit. Like he came back and was talking about it. I don't really. He must have talked to him a little bit. And I don't know who
Yeah.
it was, but yeah, we put in some calls. That was right about the time where he just couldn't do it anymore. So I was like, well, I
Yeah.
guess I'll jump behind the wheel and see what we get. I haven't had any of the problems that he was experiencing, so
Yeah.
that's
That's
been
good,
good.
man. I'm happy to hear.
Yeah.
Um, how's your time with VHX been? I mean, how's the highlights and the low lights? What's some things? Let's start with the good stuff. What's some of the
hmm
stuff you feel that we're doing right?
Well, okay, you ready for manager mode here? I'll give you I'll give you some assessment. Uh, the things that you're doing right. I can tell that you've put a lot of time and effort into not customer service, but driver service with your dispatch. Just the way that the dispatch people talk. It's very customer service oriented. In this case, the driver being the
Hmm.
customer. Um, and that's always pleasant. Um, a lot of times you get stuff like that. Like if you call the phone company and you're like, "Hey, you guys have whatever X problem and it's not my fault.
Hmm.
You need to fix it." And they go, "Oh, I'm so sorry." That usually just
Hmm.
really makes me mad because they're not going to do anything about it.
Hmm.
In this case, when you get a, "Hey, I'm real sorry that that happened," it's virtually 100% followed up by, "Let me see what I can do about it."
Hmm.
And that makes it a lot better. I'm not a big lip service guy. I don't
Hmm.
you can tell me you're sorry all day long. Unless you do something about it, you might as well just keep your mouth shut. Like, I just don't care. I want results. And
Sure.
that's generally what happens. And I think that that's probably the biggest asset that I think that you guys have right now. The rest of the industry, there's only so much you can do about it. Like, I know for a fact that if you could take out your magic wand and wave it around and make the rates go up to $3 or $4 a mile, you would do it in a heartbeat. It benefits you, benefits me, benefits everyone. Like, there's no reason in the world that you wouldn't do that. Of course, that's impossible. But I do think that, secondarily, that for what rates are out there, that when I have like my states are green and you guys are bidding automatically for me, I think that generally it's a pretty good rate. I don't think that, you know, I'm getting underbid just to get moving. There's always that dynamic in this relationship and industry too. Like, you can be hard on drivers. So if I, for whatever reason, you guys decide you're going to only bid 40 cents a mile for me, which I know would never happen unless it was the only way to absolutely do it. But just say that rates are going for 70 cents a mile, you're going to bid 40 cents a mile because you're still going to make your percentage off of it. You could easily do that to people, and I don't think that that happens. And that's awesome too. I think that a lot of brokers, especially, and even more dispatchers, probably really take advantage of a lack of transparency. I know that the last few people that we had, like, you never knew what they were actually bidding, and just from talking with them, you could tell that the rate that they were offering was not anywhere near the rate that they were getting, and that's a hard pill to swallow. And
Hmm.
I think it's fairly common in this industry, and I like not having to worry about that. Like if I did worry about it, I would still be working here like at all. But that's one less concern that I have when I'm out here. I don't feel like you guys are going to scout me. It's never happened, and I don't think that it's just based on the history and the tracker. I don't think that that's ever going to happen. So i- in order to keep good employees, I think that as well, we're not employees, but to have this
Hmm.
relationship, basically an employee relationship, part of being an employer is you really have to provide like service to your employees. It seems kind of backwards, but I think that a good employer takes care of their employees.
Yeah.
And I think that, having a rate set, this is my piece, this is what I get for doing all of this stuff, and this is your piece, this is what you get, and having that set, and
Hmm.
then, having it not go away, its consistency is really important. And I personally really appreciate that. So I think those are two really important pieces to what you got going on.
Yeah. That's really well put, man. I come from a customer service background. Since I was 16, I had my first job. It was in a call center doing customer service for a cell phone company, Singular, I think is what it was
Mhm.
called back in the day. And then after that, every job I've had is in the same customer service centric field. So when I came into logistics, that was a big shock, where customer service just doesn't really exist here. Um,
Yeah.
it's like it's very much just let's get down to the facts, and don't give me the pleases and the thank yous and the other courtesies or whatever. um
Right.
and then the customer service lately has kind of devolved to this outsourced people in the Philippines or wherever who don't
Yeah.
care about what's going on, but they do that. I'm really sorry that you're experiencing that thing. um
Yeah. And
which
it's
is,
disingenuous.
yeah,
Like
100%.
it's
And it just makes it
that's
even
what
more
gets me about it.
frustrating because
Yeah.
you're like, well, I need you to help me with this, and you are capable of helping me. This is something you could do, but they're gonna just sit there and repeat, I'm really sorry that you're experiencing that. So
Yeah.
what we've tried to do is have that, as the please and the thank you and the verbal piece, but then we also heavily push ownership to our staff as well, which is the ultimate ownership of whatever problem is. And if someone calls in with an issue, if you're not the right person that can take care of it, say, listen, I'm sorry that you're going through this. I see what's been happening so far. And this isn't something that I can do, but here's what I will do. I'm going to talk to John, who's more responsible for handling this, and I'm going to let John know what's happening so far, and then we're going to go ahead and connect you with John or whatever it is, right? So
Right.
we'll make sure to deliver that customer service piece, because I do think that empathy and showing those things means something to people. But then at the same time, um, if that's all it is, then that's just more frustrating to people. So yeah, we've tried to find
Yeah.
that balance for sure. So what about the other stuff, man? What are some things that you feel like we can change to deliver better service, to be more favorable to our drivers?
I think I don't. I mean, there's some stuff that like occasionally I'm not very happy about, but I don't really know what you could do about it. Like sometimes it's just circumstances. Um,
Like what?
I, having sometimes like you'll get this happened the other day, and it's not like a super huge deal, but if I do a load and I'm driving for 10 hours or 12
Hmm.
hours, and then as soon as I drop it off, I've got another load that's going to be another 6 hours. Like that's kind of rough. I think that sometimes maybe looking at what's going on, like I've been trying to really utilize the Milestone app more to put myself out of service and back in later. And like it's a double-edged sword. Do I want the miles? Yes. Do I need to sleep sometime because I'm human? Yes. So, maybe taking a look at that.
So
This
one
is
thing,
an
let me just comment on that. In the Milestone app, there is a setting called maximum direct miles.
Mhm.
And if you set that to say 300, and you're finishing up a mid-size or longer load, and you're available, you're feeling rested enough, but not for a super big load. If you set that to 300 or 2 or 4 or whatever, then the maximum direct deliver that we could book you on would be that 300. And if
Yeah.
we were to book a 700-mile load, for example, then every 300 mile, we would build in a 6-hour break, right?
Yeah.
So in a
Right.
like a 700-mile load in that example, you'd have two 6-hour breaks built in. Now, as you know, I mean, we don't call you and say, "Hey, you have to stop and take your break now."
Yeah.
That's not what it
Yeah.
is. But you have enough time for that break.
Right.
Generally, I mean, obviously after you pick up, because the pickup is not really part of that, but the pickups are usually within an hour or two at most, or something like that.
Yeah.
So that is
Yeah.
something you can do. And I mean, I'm glad you brought it up. From the dispatch side, the reason we decided to build it into the app is because it's very difficult for dispatchers to remember 100 people's preferences.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some
I got
people,
that.
man, they can just drive an unhealthy amount, and other
Yeah.
people, they need their breaks more. And so it's like, what we've done is we've capped it off. Like, we will never book a load more than 700 miles without a break built in, which is very different than any other logistics company. There's only
Yeah.
one that I know of, ArcBest, that forces their drivers to follow the same. As far as I know, they have their drivers, the cargo van guys, follow the same e-log rules as the big semis. Um, we don't imply we don't implement the same thing, right? Because we're not going to call you and say, "Hey, you've driven for 11 hours, now you have to pull over." But unlike many others who'll book a 12, 1,300-mile direct deliver, we cap it
Yeah.
off at 700, and then we have those tools where you can set future availability, right? So
Yep.
if you're delivering an all-nighter at 8 a.m., you can set future availability for noon and then go to sleep, or for 2 p.m. or whatever. Or B, what I like personally, I mean, obviously, if you're rested enough to keep going, is use that maximum direct deliver mileage setting. And
Mhm.
whatever you put that, we will not have you driving more than that amount without building in a break.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That makes
But
sense.
just to clarify too, because it's kind of confusing the way it's worded. It doesn't disqualify you from getting a 2,000-mile run. You
Yeah.
could you could technically still get a 2,000-mile run, but every 300 miles you will have enough time to take a 6-hour break.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
That was the idea with the app, man. We wanted to build something, and here's what I'll say. Everything we've done, business wise, how we book loads, the relationships we have with customers, the app that we've built, has been with the driver in mind.
Yeah.
I honest to God think that we are one of the only companies in logistics that's been around for any amount of time. We've been around for 10 years, thank God. That has done it entirely with driver centric approach.
Yeah.
And any load we've ever booked, it's not been because we say, "Listen, we're going to benefit, we're going to make X amount from this load." Obviously, we're going to make an X amount from this load. We're a business, we need to make money from loads. That goes
Yeah.
without saying. But the approach, every day in the office begins with us looking at a list of drivers that have been waiting a long time, from with a humanized approach. Like, "Hey, man, this
Yeah.
guy is away from his family. Maybe he's got kids at home that he hasn't seen in 3 weeks, and he's looking at being stuck in Houston, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because we're too lazy to put our a game in, our best
Right.
performance in, to book him." Every load that pops up, the idea is this load good for the driver? And
Yeah.
when we built the app, and we gave people the ability to pick and choose, because before it was just, you say you're available, we begin and we ask you, "Do you have any restrictions? Like, do you
Hmm.
need to be home by a certain day?" You say no, and we say, "Do you want us to book you on whatever we can?" You say, "Yeah." and then we book you. You have no idea if you're going to go to Texas or Florida or, you
Right.
know, and when we switched to this, I mean, it was obviously a driver serving feature because we're booking
Yeah.
far less freight. We're making far less money than we were back in the day.
Yeah, and I like the app a lot. Like I think that there's good functionality with it. I can see, not necessarily that I have any points in mind, but I can see where it could evolve and grow into something even better. I think that, the only drawback to it would be that people being lazy and not really taking advantage of it. Um, there's good settings in there. There's, just personally for me, I'd like to see a setting where you could temporarily change your rate.
Hmm.
That would be cool
What do you
because,
mean?
well, I know that maybe it's just the my business side, but there's things, and we've talked about this before too, that I feel that are worth more than just a standard rate. So
Hmm.
if I've had a slow day or if I had a long day or whatever, anyway, I'd like to be able to go in and be like, okay, so from midnight to 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm willing to work, but I don't want to work for anything less than $1 a mile.
Mm,
Um, that'd kind of give me, like, I'd be willing to get up and do it, but like to say, I'm not going to get out of bed for anything less
sure,
than X amount.
that makes
I think
sense.
that'd be interesting. I don't know how practical that would be, but that was something that I was kicking around. Um, and I don't even know if you could do this, but this happened, I think, earlier today. Uh, the bid was put in on a load that, well, I personally thought was just terrible. It was like a pick up today, wait till Monday, drive like 200 miles. Like, I personally would rather roll the dice and look for a better load over the weekend than
Yeah,
be stuck with something like so small like
yeah.
that. And there really isn't any way to articulate that other than texting or calling in, I guess. But you'd have to leave that to someone a lot smarter than I
Yeah,
am how to figure out to get around that.
that's a bid that shouldn't have been placed. I mean, unless the price was just astronomical.
It
Um,
wasn't.
yeah, we should know better than to place that bid. Let me say that. I mean, while the app is powerful and it simplifies the job of a dispatcher by a million percent, um,
Yeah.
we still hire people and we expect, we train them and we expect them to be sharp in these decisions. Um,
Yeah.
on average, we win 10% of bids we place. On average, we book 50 to 60 loads a day. So we're placing 5 to 600 bids every single day, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that was just kind of the one that slipped through the cracks where the person, their eyes
Yeah.
blurred out or something. But it's typically not a load we go after. Now we've
Yeah.
we've played with that with those options as well, man. Here's the idea we were toying with. Um, we were gonna set a minimum rate based on the amount of time that the load would take from
Mm.
the time it's booked to the delivery time. Like level one of any idea is simple. But then once you
Yeah.
get to the level two, three, four, five, that's when the mental gymnastics kick in, and you're like, wait, what about a scenario where a guy picks up whatever, like Friday at 6 p.m. and then he delivers this and that, and but yeah, that's something that we've had sitting there for a while. We never really pushed it forward. There's some
Yeah.
clear scenarios where it makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's more than 48 hours, the minimum pay. I think what got us stuck is, what if the load goes across the house? And sometimes drivers, like you're let's say you're sitting in Detroit and you live in St. Louis, or let's say you live in Ohio or you live somewhere, and there's a load going to Georgia, or there's a load going to some Indiana or something. Well, it's like the driver is okay with that load paying less if it means he
Yeah.
picks it up, he can go home, relax for a couple days, and then deliver it. So it's
Right.
just, those are some of the different mental gymnastics that kind of come in.
Yeah, I could see where that'd get complicated really fast. And then you're also messing with the industry standard of, pay per mile. Like you're trying to put time into it
Right.
too. And I
Right.
could see where, that it's like mixing oil and water. This is the way that it's been for a long time. And when you start changing that
Well,
dynamic, then people
customers
kind of get
typically
weird.
know what, I mean, a broker or a customer understands if they post Friday pickup, Monday delivery, and it's a 200-mile load. They don't expect the standard rate per mile.
Hmm.
So there's not a whole lot of danger there. I mean, at the end
Hmm.
of the day, you know, we need to be reasonable
Yeah.
with our ask. But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, our ask is our ask, and if they want it, they take it, and if they don't, we've had early on, not anymore, but we've had early on brokers that'll, or customers that'll push back and be like, well, how dare you quote me that? And it's like, listen, man, it's my quote. If you like it, you take it. If you
Yeah.
don't like it,
Yeah. It's a yes or no question. Like,
right.
there doesn't need to be any drama or dynamic in here.
What's your favorite type of load to get? Are you a big load guy? Are you a short load? Are you a night
Now,
guy? What do you like?
um, number one, pay as well. That's the
Hmm.
that's the first. Above average pay is something that I really like, and increases your profit levels. I like kind of, I guess, a mid range load.
Hmm.
I'm getting ones that I'm pretty happy with. Personally, I would like to do, you know 550 load miles a day.
Mm.
If they're paying $2 a mile, you get really good return on that. I know that's not possible. Um, but between 300 and 600 miles, I like.
Hmm.
Um, if I have enough time, then, or if I'm rested enough, then I do prefer to drive at night. If I've been driving all day, I don't know what it is about 3 o'clock in the morning, but like it just kills me. 3 o'clock rolls around, and I have got to pull over and rest for a little bit. Like, if I'm on a standard schedule, like if I've slept all day and I know that's going to happen, I can drive through the night, no problem.
That's
And
the
it's
other
I
setting that we were playing with. We were thinking about adding a setting where a driver could turn it on and it would be called like avoid direct night driving. And if
Yeah.
it's on, then any load that required driving from like midnight until 6 a.m., there would be at least like 3 hours in there for break. Um,
Yeah.
but it's one of those things like with these settings, the more you put in, the drivers that are really going to take advantage of them, they can do it, and it's going to be the best thing in the world. But way too many people have no idea what they're doing, and then they'll turn some setting on without really thinking about its effect.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing, man. Like we sit here, we think of a million different scenarios that can occur, and we're like, well, we could build something to prevent that, but then it just
Yeah.
opens, the Pandora's box.
Well, and at some point too, how complicated do you want to make your app? Like,
Right.
you could make it do 10 million things, but then you'd
Right.
literally have to have its own Wikipedia built in so you could navigate it.
Right.
Like, it's form and function. It's got to balance out at some point.
Yeah.
So, that means you're gonna hit the high spots maybe a little bit better than just hitting the high spots. But there's gonna be some stuff that just is never gonna make it in there just because you're gonna snowball it. You just make it way
Hmm.
too difficult to deal with.
Do you have
So,
any one particular load that stands out over the year or so?
um, yeah, I mean, it's nothing real super spectacular. I mean, by and large, it's pretty standard. When I first started, I got a load and I went to Florida, like way down south. And as soon as I dropped it off, I got another load that was like, I don't know, a couple 100 miles away. And it was a really good rate. And it was this teeny like box. And I picked it up at this guy's house. And he had all these like crazy, like Star Wars Lego stuff, like all up on his wall. So I'm pretty sure it was toys. I don't know. Obviously, I didn't check or anything, but it was like a 1 pound box. And I got like just an insane rate to drive it from one piece of Florida to the next piece of Florida in the absolute middle of the night and drop it off at this really nice hotel. And like, I called the guy and he came down and he was super happy to get it. Like, I just don't understand people sometimes, like, for what it is, that's a lot of money to delivering something in the middle of the night. But
Yeah.
I guess if you need to play with your Baby Yoda Lego pieces at 3 o'clock in the morning, you got to have it.
If you need to play with your baby Yoda at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's gotta be the quote of the day.
Oh
um,
man.
Speaking of that load, man, I wonder if it would be good for us to just apply a 20% premium to night loads when we bid. We could just build that into the
Yeah.
system. And it wouldn't even be a dispatch setting the drivers would control. It would just be something we do automatically. Whether it's 10, 15, 20%, but any load that picks up after 7 p.m.
Yeah.
and before, let's say, 7 a.m. would
Yeah.
receive that premium because there
Yeah.
isn't
That
as
might not be a
much
bad idea.
competition for sure.
Yeah. And, like I've told you before, I'll drive to the moon if you give me a map and you give me a good enough rate.
Mhm.
Like, if I got to wake up and, pound down the pavement, as long as I don't feel like I'm going to be dangerous, I'll do it in a heartbeat if I get paid right for it. So I don't know. I mean, that's something that obviously you're going to have way more knowledge about than I am being on the, that side of it. I don't know what the competition's like, but I can tell you that if I get woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and there's an available
Right,
load, I'm always happy to get a load, but at like a standard daytime rate, not really as happy about it.
right. Yeah,
That's one of those things where I feel like you're providing an extra service. Like, I worked at night for years and years and years and years. Like, get home at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning was pretty standard, but you're in the shipping world and the you know places that need these things generally don't keep that schedule. Some of them do, but I
yeah.
think a lot of them are pretty well 9 to 5. And if they want something delivered, picked up at 11 o'clock and delivered right away, well, that's more of a premium service in my book.
Right. At the end of the day, the market dictates that, I mean,
Yeah,
we can consider it a premium, and it is. But if there are, dozens of,
there's
of,
just
of
no way you can do it.
drivers
Yeah,
that are like, listen, I'll do it for the normal rate, then,
yeah,
we either take it or don't. But we should play with it, and we will. It's one of those things that, generally speaking, man, with these ideas that our project manager, our developers, I think they don't like me too much because they'll be doing their stuff and then I'll just get one of these ideas and I'm like, hey, whatever we're doing, drop it, do this. And then
right.
like an hour later, I'm like, hey, why is that thing delayed? What's going on? They're like, you told us to drop it.
Yeah, yeah, we're doing exactly what you wanted. Oh, well, that's your fault for listening to me. I don't. You should know better.
Right. Yeah, we have a good team, man. We have a good team that we all sort of understand, the bigger picture, the bigger goal, and we don't get tripped up over these changes. But there's constant changes, and we all have kind of learned to just flow with it. And
Yeah.
it's just like, all right, well, this is the direction we're going now. So
Yep.
was that Star Wars thing probably the weirdest load you've done, then the most unusual one?
Yeah, that one. I had a load that I wasn't super happy about. So part of my deal when I got into the CBD industry was I basically taught myself chemistry, and I had this pickup that was really weird, a government place, and it was just a teeny sample of literally the world's most corrosive acid. And I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I was not happy about it just because I've seen it, I understand it. Um, but it was secure in packaging, like it was well done, and probably there's no way that it was going to spill unless I drove off a cliff or something. Even then it probably wouldn't have done it. So but yeah, as soon as I saw the label, I'm like, no, no, this isn't gonna work. And then I talked to the guy. He's like, man, I packaged this myself. He's like, it's like half a tablespoon. It's a sample of this. It's going to this place. I'm like, oh, okay. Well,
Was
thank you for
that the
work.
vaccine that they ended up giving us all?
Yeah, right. No, little bit more toxic than that. Not much, but some. It was really
Uh,
nasty stuff. But yeah, that was obviously no problems. But yeah, I haven't had a lot of like super odd really loads. Like they've all been pretty standard.
yeah.
Those two stand out, but I don't know. I just show up and put stuff in the van and then we get going.
I remember when I drove. I was in Oregon actually, and it was like the first 6 months of us driving. I was still driving with my father as a team, and there was a load that came out of British Columbia, and we placed a bid, and it was 1,000 empty miles, and they gave it
Whew.
to us. They covered the empty miles, and we got the load, but it was the wildest, weirdest. I mean, you don't get 1,000 empty mile shipment
No.
because the thing about that too, man, is you're driving up there 700 miles in, the load cancels. They're not paying you a penny.
Yeah.
We pay our drivers in that case. We pay a cancellation
Yeah.
fee. We pay $1 a mile you drive. But
Yeah.
the broker, 90% of time, the customer, 90% of time, if you have not arrived to pick up, and if it, if the pickup time hasn't passed, they just say, hey, listen, man, uh,
Yeah.
nothing for you on this.
Yeah. That's terrible. And that's, that's the kind of stuff that you got to keep an eye on, I guess. Like, there's certain people in the industry that you just can't do business with in any industry. Like,
Right.
every industry that I've switched to, I've had a list of people that were just an absolutely no go because they were just going to
Yeah.
steal from you or, try
Well,
to mess you up. And
that's what we've been, playing with. We have a list of shippers and brokers that we've blacklisted. We just don't deal with them for a variety of
yeah,
reasons. Some of them is just because their values don't align with what our values and what we bring to the table are. We are
yeah,
not a company that comes in with the cheapest rate, man. And every load we book, I guarantee you that there was a 10-20% cheaper rate from some other carrier.
yeah,
Um, but what we do is we offer great communication. We offer 24/7 service. We only hire and retain drivers that prove that they can be reliable and provide good communication. We have good technology and all of that. And when times get tough, when the rates drop, our natural instinct is to be like, well, should we go back and get those guys back on board and start working with them again? It's like, no, man, rather invest time in improving the relationships that you do want than try to go back and fix toxic
yeah,
relationships.
yeah. My saying on that was once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, three times is enemy action. And
Mm,
at that point, you just can't deal with them anymore. It's the definition of insanity, repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It's just never
hmm
going to happen. If you know that you go with company X and there's going to be a problem, then save yourself the
hmm
headache and just don't do it.
Right. What do you do in between loads? Do you have any hobbies that keep you busy?
I don't have anything that really keeps me busy. Like, I have a lot of hobbies. A lot of them aren't conducive to bringing in a van with me. Um, I don't remember who I told the other day. I made a paracord rope the other day, like a lariat, which is something that I wanted to do for a while.
You made
Um,
a what?
a, a rope. Here, hold on a second.
I made a rope. That's another one that's added to the phrases you don't hear every day.
Yeah,
How'd you make a rope? How do you make a rope?
I braided it. It's paracord. It's four plat. I don't know. It's about 50 feet long. Just something that
Wow.
I'd want to try. I've made a lot of stuff out of paracord over the years, and making a long rope is time consuming because it gets tangled really bad and it's just kind of messy to
Yeah.
deal with. So, but yeah, do that. Um, Now that it's getting warmer, I'll probably make some arrowheads like I do flint
Oh
knapping.
yeah.
Yeah, I got into that when I was managing the bar because I was surrounded by glass bottles all the time. You knock the bottom of the bottle out, and you get some real pretty glass and make some arrowheads. And it's good. It's fairly mobile. I also thought about bringing my fly tying stuff with me. I think I might tie some flies when I'm on the road. That'd be a good use of my time, I think. So I got to
Tie
find
some
that.
flies, like fishing.
Mhm. Fishing, yeah,
Okay. Fly
yeah,
fishing or whatever it's called.
yep, fly fishing.
Yeah.
It doesn't take up a lot of room. It's pretty neat. I fly fish, so you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
That's
I do that. I do that too periodically. Like today, haven't gotten a load coming in. It's evening on Friday. Uh, Tomorrow, if I don't have anything going on, there's uh, somewhere nearby, I'll probably go fishing. Like I pack
yeah.
my fishing pole with me and a little bit of tackle. It's always a
That's
fun way to
awesome, man.
spend a little bit of time. Yeah.
That's the way to do it. I mean, obviously, staying busy is always priority. Well, when you're in service, when you want to load, but
Yeah.
ability to you know keep yourself entertained and keep your sanity in between loads is what really makes the difference. Because I get the feeling that some drivers are just kind of sitting there with their phone,
Yeah.
just waiting
Yeah.
for a message. I mean,
Well, and
we
I
have
see.
people call like 4 or 5 times a day. Hey, what's going on? Any loads? And I understand it. I mean, I was a
Yeah, but
driver, but it's it's like no, no, you'll be the
yeah,
first to know.
if we had a load for you, you'd know it. Yeah. Yeah, keeping yourself occupied, you know. Like you can only go into Walmart so many times and wander
Right,
around, stare at diapers or whatever. And that's the other problem too. You get into an area where there's, you know, shops and stuff around, and then you end up being like, well, I could use a new pair of tennis shoes. No, you don't need a new pair
right.
of tennis shoes. Like, don't waste your money on it. Go to the gym. I've got a gym membership, which helps out a lot.
Yeah.
That's always dicey though. I get like PTSD from it because every time I pull up the gym, I'm like, this is going to guarantee that I'm going to get a load. Like, I'm going to
Mm.
get in there and I'm going to just start, and my phone's going to ring and be like, oh. But you got to do it. You got
I
to keep
had
in shape.
reached out to Planet Fitness, and I was
Yeah,
chasing down their managers, trying to inquire about getting a membership for all of our drivers.
yeah,
And I gave up on it because I made 3 or 4 calls, and it's one of those things, man, where you can tell a company's company culture based on how
yeah,
any employee handles something. Because
yeah,
right when like the front desk guy, when he gets a call from someone saying, "Hey, I want to give your company 100 new members in this corporate thing, but I need more information about it," his response, whether he gets excited or if he just goes, okay, well, that's not really my thing. My job is to scan in, gym cards, and I don't benefit from that. I don't really care. And then he just kind of
yeah.
gets lost in the papers. Right there, you can tell that company's company culture when it comes to solving your problem, when it comes to servicing you, when it comes to treating you right, when it comes to innovation. And that's one area, man, where we haven't done a perfect job, but that's a focus for us. Is every employee that you interact with, we want you we want them to care. It's not even we want the driver to feel like they care, but no, man, we want them to care about the driver's situation. If there's a problem that's turning into kind of a code red problem, we want whoever to jump on and resolve it. Or if there's an opportunity for us to get business, whose ever desk it comes across, we want to resolve it. So I'm going to have to jump back on that too, because I think that would be kind of a neat little perk to give everyone a just. I mean, it's not a big thing, anyways, but people would
But it
just have
comes
that
in.
free.
Yeah, it comes in handy on the road. Like it gives you a place to take a shower. I mean, if you're out for 3, 4 weeks at a time, your options are fairly limited. It's not like you can just go get a hotel room every night. Like, no one's got the money for that. And I do. That's who I have my gym membership with, even though I'm not super happy about it. I don't like the company as a whole. Um, and generally, I don't even work out in there. Like 99% of the time, I just use it as a place to take a shower. Like I've got some basic equipment in the van that I use when I don't have a load. Like I don't really like the place, but I also don't like, not having a shower for 3 weeks at a time. So it's the lesser of two evils, I'd say.
Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest driver life hacks on the road. Get a Planet Fitness membership for 10 or 20
Yeah.
bucks a month, free showers. Just
Yep.
about anywhere you go, you can find one. You can also
Almost
go
anywhere.
and, sit down on the exercise bike, watch some TV if you want to work out.
The
Um,
massage chairs. The massage chairs are key. That's
Massage
really good.
chairs.
Yeah. Sitting, driving around, being on your ass all day, like hitting those massage chairs really helps out your back. I really like it.
Yeah. Any advice for healthier living on the road, whether it's fitness or food?
Make your own food, meal prep. I bought a cooler from Bucky's of all places, but it's a freezer. So when
Hmm.
I head home, I stock up with about 20 meals in there.
Really?
Um, yep. And then if that
So
doesn't,
most of your meals are that?
Yeah, my wife is a excellent cook. Um, she actually was my kitchen manager for a long time, but
Okay.
she's got stuff ready to go, little deli cups for me. It's the right size. Throw it. I've got a little propane stove. Throw it on there, heat it up. Takes 5-10 minutes. You're ready to go, and I know
Genius.
what I'm. Yep, I know what I'm eating. You're not going to get sick from some random 15-year-old kid at McDonald's picking his nose and making your burger, which is terrible. I mean, honestly, it's funny, but it is a legitimate concern. I mean, if you eat out enough, you are going to get sick from it at some
You
point.
are.
And being on the road and being having food poisoning, uh, it's not a party I want to go to at all. So I avoid fast food at all costs, and I've got a pan and cast iron skillet. I really enjoy to cook, so periodically I'll stop at a grocery store and buy some stuff and make my own food. But as far as health wise, I think that's one of the most important things you can do. Um, and then be cognizant of how many calories you're taking in too. Like even
Mm.
you're like, I don't want to cook at all. Well, it's not my deal. I can't meal prep, whatever the reason is. That's fine. You can live off of eating fast food or semi fast food. But, if you're eating Carl's Jr. 5 times a day and you're driving for 12, 14 hours a day and then you're sleeping for the rest of the time, you're not really burning a lot of those calories. Your average fast food meal, like a normal one, has well over 1,000 calories in it. Some of them are pushing 3,000 calories. Like that one meal, it's got enough calories to last you the entire day. So
Crazy.
you got to be careful of that. Work out when you can, walk, uh, do anaerobic exercise. All that stuff will keep you healthy for a long time. Take supplements. Being out here driving around talking with people, especially the bigger facilities when they've got a million people. I take echinacea. Like increases and supports your immune system, makes you a lot healthier, keeps you you're a lot less likely to get sick from just being
What is
out
it?
and around. Echinacea, it's a flower, purple cone flower, and they put it in a lot of stuff, but it has a cumulative effect on your immune system. And it doesn't make you Superman or anything, but this is stuff that I learned in the service industry too. Wash your hands, take echinacea. Like that'd be my two main pieces of advice for people, to avoid getting sick. You can buy it
So
in pills, tea, cough drops. Like it's everywhere. Get a bottle of echinacea. Like you can buy it from Walmart. It's not very expensive. You get a bunch of them. Take
yeah,
two a day, and it really helps out.
yeah. I went ahead and bookmarked it here. I'm gonna look into it and then send the message out. That'd be kind of
Yeah,
a cool episode, man. By maybe even have some expert on, uh, someone in maybe the whatever wellness or medical field that can give some
yeah,
advice for drivers staying on the road. Um,
yeah. Find a naturopath or a really good chiropractor. Chiropractors, and my personal experience, tend to be a lot better versed in more natural, kind of holistic ways to
yeah.
keep yourself healthy. Um, but yeah, you gotta maintain your health when you're on the road, just like anywhere else.
Speaking of health, I mean, it sounds like your other jobs were very different in this regard than this. But how do you handle the isolation and the loneliness that come with being on the road? How long do you typically stay out? How often do you get back home?
Well, lately I've been back home fairly frequently, but you know, I think I've been out 2.5 months. Probably was about the longest. I'd
Wow.
say typically I average about once a month. I get my there's something that ends up taking me home.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is I've got a really really great wife. She's really understanding. She understands that this is how we're making most of our money. She takes care of the house. She takes care of the dogs. She also has a job. So she's really got the home base locked down. And as far as the isolation, like you know, I I deal with people fine. Like I can, I've had plenty of jobs dealing with the public in general, and that doesn't bother me, but it does wear me out. Like so,
Mm.
even when I was running a huge bar and dealing with hundreds and hundreds of people every day, like I'd sneak off every hour or so and just sit down and be by myself in my office and just kind of, take a breath and let that go away. So while I can do it and I've been really successful doing it and been good at it, I honestly I prefer to be basically by myself.
Hmm.
It's not that I'm antisocial. Like I'll talk to people when I'm out and around, and talk to people at the load sites, and people loading you up, and the people, just that's all fine with me. But it doesn't really bother me that much. I've been really at ease just being by myself my entire life. So I don't really have that much of a problem with it. The loneliness part doesn't really get me. Being away from the house, that kind of does it for me. Like I don't really feel lonely, but I'd like to see my wife. I'd like to see my
Hmm.
dogs. I'd like to finish rebuilding remodeling my house that's just sitting there because I'm not there. So, you have stuff that you want to do, but get home every once in a while, make a little progress, hang out for a little bit, go have dinner. It's a needs versus want type thing. Like I got to be
Right.
on the road. I got to be making money. Do I want to be
Right.
doing it? No. Would I rather win the lottery and just sit on a throne made of $100 bills? You bet. But until that day happens, here we are. Like you got to do
Don't
what you got
forget
to
us little people, man, when that happens.
do. Well, the funny thing about the lottery is you have to play it to win it. So
Right.
I'm uh I'm probably not real likely to win anytime soon.
Right. Right. Um, there was another question, man. It just escaped my mind. That kind of bounced off of that.
Where's your notes? You're not
Yeah,
taking
they're
notes?
here. They're here. No, but what it was actually was I was going to ask. Do you find most interactions with other drivers to be pleasant, positive, or do you find them to sort of weir in the direction of kind of being toxic and like unproductive?
No, I don't really have a ton of interaction with other drivers per se, but you know, I, being friendly doesn't cost anything. So whenever I do
Right.
run into whether it's a truck driver or a van driver or whoever, I'm always more than willing to say hey and chew the fat if I've got time for it. But I mean, always say hi to everyone. And I, by and large, I can't think of a time where another actual driver, like guys driving Johnny trucks at like a big freight facility, that they're pretty much going to be a wash. You basically just don't want to talk to them because they hate their life and you and everything else in it. I've never met one of those guys that was really very nice. Uh, but truck drivers that are loading in or standing there waiting around, they're always happy to talk. Every van driver I've met has just been super nice. There was a Hispanic guy that had a load. I don't remember where we were,
Our
but it
guy.
was no. He didn't drive. I gave him the number, told him to call. He actually met me afterwards. We went to the same Walmart. Hold on a second. But he didn't really speak any English. I speak enough Spanish to get by. So we were at this facility and they had real strict, drive here, go here, don't deviate. And he offered to go first, and she got done talking to him. And he's just like, "So you think you can go first? Yeah, come on." But he turned out to be a super nice guy. I think the company that he drove for was taking advantage of him, but I tried
We,
to get
we
him to
we've
jump
had an
ship.
influx of Hispanic drivers for like 10 years. We didn't have one, and the last like few months we had one guy come, and then it was just a bunch after followed him. So I think we're up to like 5 or 6 hardworking people, man. Some of the
Yeah,
most hardworking people out there.
yeah, yep, I agree.
Um, any notable interactions with our dispatch team or any drivers you've met on the road?
Well, I
Anything
mean,
that stands out?
not. I mean, not really. I generally really enjoy the dispatch team. It's nice every once in a while. Like specifically, Omer will call and just say, how's it going? What's going on? Especially I've been sitting for a little bit.
Well, one more
He's
thing I
he's
wanted
almost
to
always.
ask. Sorry, I have a
"Hmm?
horrible habit of interrupting. Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. Go ahead.
I've been thinking about rolling something out where every night we would check who is driving, only drivers who are moving in motion, and we would just have kind of a wellness check-in if you're on a load driving at night, and it would just be, hey, Lance, what's going on? I see you're driving. Just want to check in, see how it's going. Do you need
Yeah.
anything from us? Just a basic check-in call like that. Um, What do you think about that?
I think that if it's a call, then that would be, it would be pretty good. Like I personally hate it when I'm on the road and I get texts, and I know
Oh
it's
yeah.
90% of the communication. So, Hmm. Sorry, my throat's getting real dry. Um, but yeah, no, I wouldn't see any problem with that. That'd
Cool.
be good to just kind of check the water and see how everyone's doing.
Yeah. You've had good interactions with Ahmed.
I do. It's just he's easy to talk to, nice guy. Um, and I don't know if he's just got my number and he happens to call, but I tend to talk to him the most.
Yeah,
So
so his part of his role, we've kind of got the whole office divided, and everyone has, kind of the communal thing we do, but then, where everyone does it, but then everyone also has their individual roles. So one of the things he does every morning is he kind of looks over a whole fleet, sees who's where, who's been waiting a long time, who might need to relocate, and he does those morning check-in calls. Um, but cool, man. We'll stop there. Unless you have any questions
all
or
right,
anything else you want to go over with me.
no, I think I'm good, man.
You were great for this. I appreciate you doing it. I look forward to us working together for a long time. And I'm gonna take some of the stuff that we discussed, man, kind of back to the drawing board and see if we can improve the systems and the processes with it. And that's it. I appreciate you doing this. Stay safe on the road.
All right, brother. Thank you very much. Good talking to you, man.
Take care. Bye.